I stood at the altar in a wedding dress his family hated. They never said it out loud, but I heard every word. Gold digger, after the money. His mother had a speech ready, not to bless us, but to stop this wedding in front of everyone. What they didn't know was this. I wasn't here to take their money. I was here to record the truth. And today, the wedding was still going to happen. My name is Elena. I met Daniel at a charity fundraiser his family hosted every year. They were respected, wealthy, the kind of family people trusted without asking questions. Daniel wasn't like them. He was quiet, decent, and he believed the money was actually helping people. When I started spending time around his family, I noticed something right away. They watched me, not out of curiosity, out of calculation. Every question I asked made the room colder. Every time I looked at a financial report, someone changed the subject. They decided who I was before they ever asked why I was there. And they were wrong, because I didn't fall in love with Daniel for his money. I stayed because something about his family didn't add up. I knew they were watching me. Not the dramatic kind. No whispers when I walked into the room, no sudden silence. It was quieter than that. Too quiet. When you grow up ordinary, you learn how rich families look at outsiders. They don't stare. They don't accuse. They calculate. The first dinner at Daniel's family home was polite. Expensive wine, perfect table settings, everyone smiling at the right moments. And every smile stopped just short of warmth. His mother asked me where I grew up, what my parents did, where I went to school. Normal questions, but she didn't listen to the answers. She was checking boxes. When I mentioned my job, her fork paused midair. Financial consulting, not hedge funds, not private equity. Still, close enough. Her eyes flicked to Daniel's sister for half a second. That was all. I noticed it. I always notice that kind of thing. After dinner, Daniel showed me around the house. Family photos, awards, framed newspaper articles about their charity work. His father's name was everywhere. On plaques, on brochures, on the foundation's annual report stacked neatly on a side table. Daniel spoke about the charity like it mattered, like it wasn't just branding. I asked a simple question. How long has the foundation been running? The room shifted, not visibly, just enough. His sister answered instead of him. Since Dad passed. Short, closed. I nodded and let it go. But that was the moment they started paying closer attention. It didn't take long for the assumptions to form. I heard them in fragments, not full sentences, just words that floated when they thought I was out of range. She knows numbers. She asks a lot. She's very interested in the foundation. Once I heard his mother laugh softly and say, "Well, of course she is." That one didn't need explaining. Daniel tried to ignore it. He wanted things simple. He believed that if people were decent, truth would eventually rise on its own. That was one of the things I liked about him. One night, after another family dinner that felt more like an interview, he asked me, "Do they make you uncomfortable?" I told him the truth. "They've already decided who I am." He frowned. "That's not fair." I smiled. "It doesn't have to be." When Daniel proposed, everything changed. Not between us, between me and his family. Suddenly, the smiles disappeared completely. Now there was urgency. His mother asked about prenups, about separate accounts, about asset protection. She framed it as concern for Daniel, but she never once asked what I wanted or how I felt. I became a risk factor, a variable, something to be managed. The meetings started soon after, not with me, without me. I'd arrive early for dinner and hear voices in the study, lowered tones, legal language. One night, I walked past the door and caught a sentence I wasn't meant to hear. If she marries him, she gets access. Access. Not love, not family. Access. I didn't confront them. That would have been a mistake. People reveal more when they think they're winning. The gold digger theory solidified quickly. I could feel it in the way conversations shifted when I entered a room, in the way financial topics were suddenly boring, in how reports disappeared from tables once I sat down. Daniel didn't see most of it, or maybe he didn't want to. Once, he joked, "My mom thinks you're after our money." He laughed. I didn't. I asked him what he thought. He hesitated, just for a second. That was enough. His sister was more direct. She cornered me during a wedding planning meeting. Floral samples spread across the table, color palettes, venue brochures. She leaned in and said quietly, "You're very lucky." I smiled. So is Daniel. She didn't smile back. People would do a lot to be where you are. That wasn't a compliment. That was a warning. They started testing me. Small tests. Questions designed to trap. Would you want to be involved in the foundation someday? What would you do if Daniel inherited more than expected? How do you feel about long-term financial security? I answered carefully, always neutrally, never defensively. The more calm I stayed, the more suspicious they became, because in their minds, innocence is loud, guilt is quiet. The lawyer joined one dinner, unannounced. He talked about estate planning like it was casual conversation. He asked me hypothetical questions, very specific hypotheticals. What if there were concerns about misuse of funds? What if someone misunderstood internal transfers? I told him I trusted Daniel. I told him the family. That answer disappointed him. It didn't fit the narrative they were building. By then, I knew exactly what they thought of me. I was the woman who showed up at the wrong time, right before Daniel's inheritance finalized, right when the foundation's assets were growing, right when scrutiny could be dangerous. They believed I was here to take something. What they didn't realize was this. I wasn't looking at the money. I was looking at how nervous they got when I asked about it. One night, Daniel fell asleep early. I stayed up, sitting at the kitchen table. On the counter nearby were folders from the foundation, old reports. I didn't touch them. I didn't need to. The fact that they were suddenly left out at all was telling. Sloppy, careless, like someone who thought the threat was already neutralized. I heard his mother's voice in the hallway. "She's playing it smart," she said. His sister replied, "They always do." That word again, always, like they'd seen this before, or thought they had. The wedding date approached. Tension tightened. His mother started drafting his speech. I wasn't supposed to know that, but I did. It wasn't a toast. It was leverage, a public moment, a way to humiliate me if necessary, to stop the wedding without stopping it. They wanted witnesses, insurance. Daniel had no idea, and I didn't warn him. Not yet. Because at that point, they still believed they were in control, and that belief made them careless. At some point, suspicion changes shape. It stops being about what people say out loud and starts showing up in what they rush to hide. For me, that shift happened quietly. No confrontation, no dramatic discovery, just patterns. And patterns don't lie. I didn't start digging. That's important. I didn't break into offices. I didn't hack accounts. I didn't snoop through locked drawers. I did something far more dangerous. I paid attention. It began with an email. Daniel forwarded it to me by accident. Just a single-page attachment, a financial summary from the foundation. Nothing alarming at first glance. Until I noticed the numbers. Not wrong, just circular. Money leaving one account, reappearing somewhere else, then quietly returning under a different label. I asked Daniel about it, casually. "What's this line item?" He looked at the screen longer than necessary. Then he closed the laptop. "That's internal, just accounting stuff." I nodded, but his voice had changed. After that, things started disappearing. Reports that used to sit openly on side tables were suddenly locked away. Conversations about the foundation stopped the moment I entered the room. It wasn't subtle anymore. They weren't worried I'd steal something. They were worried I'd understand something. Daniel noticed my questions. He didn't like them, not because they were accusatory, but because they made him uncomfortable. One night, he said, "You don't trust my family." I corrected him. "I don't understand your family. There's a difference." The first real crack appeared during a fundraiser. Black tie, donors everywhere. Everyone praising the foundation, talking about transparency, accountability. I watched Daniel's mother smile and shake hands. perfect performance. Then a donor pulled her aside. I couldn't hear the words, but I saw her expression change, just for a second. Fear. Not embarrassment, not annoyance. Fear. Later that night, I found Daniel alone. I asked him, if something was wrong, would you want to know? He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "You're asking the wrong questions." That's when I realized something important. Daniel wasn't protecting the family, he was protecting himself from knowing. A week later, someone contacted me, an unfamiliar name, no profile photo, just a short message. "I heard you've been asking about the foundation." I didn't respond. Not immediately. I waited 2 days. Then I replied with one word, "Yes." We met in a coffee shop far from the city. He sat with his back to the window. Older, tired. He didn't waste time. I was the foundation's senior accountant, past tense. He told me how he'd been fired. No warning, no explanation, just an accusation of clerical errors that conveniently shifted liability onto him. He slid his phone across the table. "I kept records," he said. "Not documents, conversations, audio files, internal meetings." Discussions about transfers, about splitting transactions, about making money disappear without disappearing. I didn't listen to them right away. I asked him one question first. "Why give these to me?" He laughed. "Because you're the only one asking." I listened later, alone. The voices were unmistakable. Daniel's mother, his sister, talking freely, confident, like people who believed they'd never be challenged. They talked about the foundation like it was a tool, a buffer, a shield. They talked about donors like resources, and they talked about Daniel like he was useful. That part hurt more than I expected. I still didn't confront anyone, not yet. Because knowing the truth is one thing, proving it is another, and timing matters. I started looking backward, old public filings, archived news articles. I wasn't searching for crimes, I was searching for inconsistencies. Stories that didn't line up, sudden growth, vague explanations, praise without specifics. The kind of reputation built on silence, not scrutiny. Then I found something small, almost meaningless. A donation listed under a different spelling of the foundation's name, just one letter off. It led to a shell organization, registered to an address I recognized. One of the family's holding companies. That's when my doubts shifted. Not about them, about me. I asked myself, what do I do with this? I considered walking away, canceling the wedding, handing everything over quietly. But that would have given them time to clean up, time to erase, and more importantly, it would have let them control the story. I spoke to a financial investigator, off the record, no names, no documents, just hypotheticals. I asked, if someone suspected a charity was being used for laundering, how would they prove it? He told me, audits, patterns, witnesses, and public moments where denial becomes impossible. That's when the wedding stopped being a wedding and started becoming a deadline. I told Daniel pieces of the truth, not all of it, just enough. I showed him a discrepancy, then another. I asked him to explain. He couldn't. Not because he was lying, but because he'd never looked closely enough to know. That scared him. He asked me to stop, said this wasn't my place, that his family would handle it. That word again, handle. Meanwhile, his mother changed tactics. She became warm, inviting. Suddenly concerned about my comfort, she asked about my family, my plans, my future. She suggested a private conversation. She told me, marriage is about trust. I agreed. She smiled like she'd won something. The speech she was preparing became clearer. I found out through someone else, a friend of the family. It wasn't a blessing. It was an insurance policy, a public framing, a way to cast doubt on me before I could speak. They were planning to control the narrative. I just needed to let them think they would. I didn't give the recordings to the authorities yet, not because I was unsure, but because I needed something else. Confirmation. A moment where they'd say the quiet part out loud, without knowing it mattered. And I got it. 3 days before the wedding, Daniel's sister called me. She asked if we could talk. Alone. She told me she was worried. about the stress I was causing Daniel, about how questions could misrepresent intentions. She said, once the wedding is over, things will calm down. I asked her, and if they don't? She looked at me, really looked, and said, then you'll have what you wanted. That sentence sealed everything. By then, I had already filed what needed to be filed. Not accusations, information. Enough to trigger review. Enough to ensure the truth wouldn't disappear. The wedding wasn't the evidence. It was the moment. The moment they'd have to face what they'd built in public. As the day approached, the suspicion around me peaked. The gold digger narrative hardened. They thought I'd won. They thought I'd gotten access. They thought the threat had passed. And that confidence made them reckless. The morning of the wedding was quiet. Too quiet. No chaos, no last-minute disasters. Everything ran on schedule. That should have comforted me. It didn't. Because people who believe they've already won don't panic. They prepare. Daniel's mother arrived early, dressed in black. Not mourning black, power black. She hugged me longer than necessary, whispered, "You look beautiful." Her voice was warm. Her eyes were calculating. I thanked her and let her think the performance was working. The guests filled the chapel. Donors, business partners, friends of the foundation. The kind of people who trusted the family because they always had. I stood at the back, waiting for the music to start, holding the bouquet, feeling the weight of what was about to happen. Not fear, responsibility. When the doors opened, every head turned. I walked down the aisle slowly, not because I was nervous, but because I wanted time. Time for everyone to see me. Not as a threat, not as a rumor, just a bride. Daniel waited at the altar. He looked relieved when he saw me, like someone who'd survived a storm without realizing it wasn't over yet. I met his eyes. He smiled. I didn't. The ceremony began. Words about love, trust, commitment. All of it felt fragile, like glass, beautiful and easy to shatter. Then came the question, the one everyone waits for. Do you take Daniel to be your lawfully wedded husband? I didn't answer right away. Not long enough to cause alarm, just long enough to shift the air in the room. Then I said, I do. A ripple of relief moved through the crowd. Daniel exhaled. His mother relaxed. They thought the moment had passed. They were wrong. Before the officiant could continue, I stepped forward, toward the microphone. You could hear the movement, chairs creaking, fabric shifting, confusion. I reached out and turned the mic on myself. No one stopped me. That mattered. I need to say something, I said. My voice was steady, not choking, not raised. I promise this will be brief. Daniel turned to me. What are you doing? He whispered. I didn't answer him. I faced the room. For months, I said, I've been called something. I paused. Gold digger. A few people shifted uncomfortably. Some looked down. I continued. I've been told I asked too many questions, that I showed up at a convenient time, that my interest in this family's charity wasn't innocent. I looked at Daniel's mother. She didn't look back. So before I sign anything today, I said, I want everyone to hear something. I nodded to the sound technician. A simple motion. Rehearsed. The room filled with sound. A voice came through the speakers. Calm, familiar. Daniel's mother, talking about moving funds temporarily, about splitting transactions to avoid attention, about how the foundation was protected by reputation. Gasps rippled through the room. Someone stood up. Then another voice, Daniel's sister, laughing, saying, once the wedding's done, this won't matter. Silence followed. Not shock, recognition. Daniel turned pale. He looked at me like he didn't recognize me, or himself. Is this real? He asked. I nodded. Yes. I raised my hand slightly. The audio stopped. I didn't record these, I said. I was given them. I didn't explain how. I didn't need to. This isn't about revenge, and it's not about this wedding. I took a breath. It's about accountability. Someone shouted, this is inappropriate. Another voice said, call security. No one moved, because that's what happens when the truth is undeniable. people freeze. That's when the doors opened. Not dramatically. No sirens, no shouting. 2 financial investigators entered quietly. They stood at the back, visible, patient, waiting. One of them spoke. "We're not here to arrest anyone today," he said. "We're here to inform you that the foundation is under formal review." A murmur spread through the crowd. He continued. "Documents were submitted prior to this event. This recording is not the basis of our investigation." That line mattered, because this wasn't theater. It was procedure. Daniel's mother finally spoke. Her voice cracked. "This is a misunderstanding." The investigator nodded. "That's what the review will determine. No accusations, no conclusions, just inevitability." Daniel stepped toward me. His voice was low. "You planned this." I didn't deny it. "I planned for the truth to be heard." He swallowed. "From the beginning?" I hesitated, then said, "From the moment I realized no one else was asking." The officiant stood awkwardly. Unsure what to do, I turned back to the microphone one last time. "I'm not marrying Daniel today," I said. A collective inhale. "But I am standing by what I said." I looked directly at his mother. "I didn't come here for your money." Pause. "I came here because something didn't add up." She stared at me, pure rage now. "You destroyed my family." I shook my head. "No," I said quietly. "I just turned off the mic." I handed the ring back to Daniel. He didn't take it at first. Then he did. No anger, just devastation. I walked down the aisle alone. No music, no applause. Just footsteps. Mine. Outside, the air felt different. Lighter. Like something heavy had been named. I didn't wait around. Didn't speak to the press. Didn't explain myself. The truth didn't need help anymore. Later, I learned what happened next. Audits, subpoenas, resignations. The foundation froze operations. Donors asked questions. And silence stopped protecting anyone. Daniel sent me one message. I wish I had listened sooner. I never replied. Because some lessons arrived too late to be shared. I didn't leave with money. I didn't leave with status. I didn't leave with a husband. I left with something else. Clarity. There are moments when silence becomes complicity. When asking the wrong questions is the only honest thing left to do. And sometimes, the most powerful place to speak the truth is where no one expects it. At the altar, with a microphone.